Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto fell in love with Starfire? Huge shout out to QP16 for this story. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Betrayal, that was the only thing on the forefront of her mind. It was the only that kept her sane as the feelings of rage and sadness boiled up inside her. The being was a bipedal person with long black bangs that framed her face, small bangs hanging over her forehead, and has small eyebrows with the same color. She was wearing a sleeveless top showing her stomach, a miniskirt, and thigh-high boots that were all purple. With them she had a belt, silver armor plates on her neck and arms, and a metal armband around her right arm. "Out, prisoner." Starfire took a moment to register the guard's voice as he aimed his sphere at her, which radiated an electric pulse. Without a hint of emotion, she walked down the ramp as she was escorted into the large prison, whose walls were made out of the material known as dolomite. These steel cuffs normally would have been shattered by the power of the Tamarinian princess, but the nature of her powers, being connected to her emotional state, put a bit of damper on that, and now she could hardly muster a single positive thought. How could her sister do this to her? Why haven't her friends come and help her? The only thing that seemed to hold true was the deep-seated fear that she would be replaced. As she entered the prison, dozens of alien creatures leered at her and make obscene comments. A highly attractive female like her being in a place like this was just asking for trouble. She was able to just dodge out of the range of his enormous mouth tongue as one of the guards ran over and shocked the creature. "Then prisoner." The Faceless, as they were named, ordered. This was the name bequeathed on these beings as they were cybernetic robots that looked exactly the same and lacked the ability to make expressions, made up most of the guards and peacekeepers in this little quadrant of the galaxy. This facility was created for criminals that were too dangerous for the regular prison institutions for a world to handle, but not a big enough threat to permit the higher-ups to bother with them. She was then imprinted with a cell number to the back of her neck. The normal dexterity her species was known for was useless here, as she couldn't help but cry out at the searing pain of the laser beams. Number 8,789,2023 Ox. The guard said as he closed the door behind her. "So we have a cute one, huh?" A voice said, this one rather gruff and slithery, causing the auburn-haired girl to look up. He was easily 8 foot tall with rough violet snake-like skin, snake-like yellow eyes, and a fork-like tongue. "I don't know why the boss is wasting a good piece of ass like you and putting you with this guy. Though I suppose when he's done I can have the leftovers as the medical ward is already full," he said with a mirthful chuckle as he walked off. The sound of growling alerted Starfire to the presence. She turned, and in the darkness all she could see was that of two large crimson slits. For a moment the alien princess was startled, but her gaze hardened as she ready to defend herself. She was a warrior and the way of her people, her very pride made her refuse to give up so easily. The figure lunged at her, and she swayed to the side, easily dodging the blow, and threw a punch connecting with its jaw and sending it crashing into the wall, causing a crack in it. The figure recovered just as easily as claws revealed itself along with sharp teeth. It lunged once more, baring its teeth as it swiped at the orange-skinned alien, cutting her cheek. In retaliation, she was able to manifest a brief sparkle of a starbolt bright enough to blinded the figure. Thankfully enough, the guard saw it fit to remove her cuffs before tossing her in the jail cell. "The Tamarinian?" the figure asked with a dark chuckle as he stood up, and his glowing red eyes softened and gained a more humane shape. The circular eyes shined a sharp cerulean blue as his voice softened. "What's one of your kind doing here?" "It doesn't matter," she said bitingly. "Nothing matters anymore." By how dejected she found, it was obvious that whatever hope she once had was quickly fading. "Well, it's not hopeless, in fact it's a blessing in disguise. I thought I was going to have to wait a few more weeks, but your abilities will do," the figure said as he stepped out the darkened recesses of the cell. His face finally became visible, odd marks, whiskers in fact were on his face, 3 dark visibly whiskers on both his left and right cheek, as his golden blonde hair seemed quite dirtied. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, by the way, and I didn't mean you any harm. It's just because of the shit I've been through I have a hard time dealing with new people." As Starfire studied him, she realized there was something familiar in his eyes. It was so similar to hers, filled with betrayal. "I am Coriander of Tamarin, not that it matters anymore." "Really? I think I heard of you, the princess," he exclaimed upon realizing just why she seemed so familiar. "Aren't you supposed to have auburn hair?" he asked, noticing her hair was quite dark, raven color, dark with streaks of violet in fact. "The work of my sister." She spat out venomously as her hands trembled in anger. Out of all the things her sister had said and done over the years, this was absolutely unforgivable. She had forgiven Commander for so many things and tried to be sensitive to her sister's status of the unfavorite on Tamarin, but framing her for a crime, impersonating her identity, and sending her to a prison where she would spend life imprisonment or even be killed. "Let me guess. Framed you for a crime, right?" he asked as the Tamarin nodded. How would you like to pay her back? How? I'm stuck here in this prison the same as you. Well, as I was saying earlier, I have a plan to break out, and with your ability to fly we can definitely do it. How? I can't fly, my powers are based on my emotions, and the statement was left in the air as Naruto walked over and looked her up and down. I know a lot about emotional stability and training. Let's just say when people try to erase your emotions and make you into a weapon, you learn to tap into certain things. So come on now, partnership beneficial to the both of us. It's the only way I can get to Earth. Upon mentioning the Earth, he noticed her tense slightly. So we're going to the same place. No way you can refuse, can you? It's the only way to pay back your sister for this, isn't it? Revenge. Was she the type of person who wanted that? The type of person was capable of it. She wasn't sure, but at the very least she wanted to face her sister about her crimes against her. She then noticed he was staring intently at her. Yes. You really are cute, he said as he was a few inches away from her. Starfire didn't know why, but she found herself blushing at this closeness. The only person who made her feel like this was Robin. He cared, didn't he? He would be here soon. Maybe her team didn't abandon her. Maybe she was jumping to conclusions and they were trying to find her. You're thinking about some friends back on Earth, right? He asked, as if he read her mind. Yes, my team. Team? What, like a group of Temerian soldiers or something? No, we were superheroes, so to say. We were a group called the Teen Titans. The five of us. She then began telling about her teammates. Cyborg, the guy sounded like he was a cool gamer type who worked with technology a lot and laid back. The Raven girl, he couldn't recall anyone he knew that acted like what Starfire have described. Though there was something at the back of his mind, but he dismissed it and didn't to worry about it later. Now the Beast Boy kid reminded him a bit of himself in the younger days, but he didn't notice the emotional turmoil when she began describing her leader. The only one he knew about, but it was due to him having some run-ins with the boy's mentor, Batman. In fact, it was because of the damn Justice League he was in this prison in the first place. Thank God for that. The space police conveniently came and picked him up before the League could put him in one of those prisons for super criminals, not that they ever worked from what he heard. For God's sakes, when was somebody going to grow a sack and start killing these psychos he kept hearing about? You know, that's weird. I mean, I'm not trying to turn you against them or anything, but I think you guys have been friends long enough to at least know a bit more about each other than the basics. He spoke up at the end of her tale. I mean, it takes weeks worth of traveling from Earth to here, unless you use a special vessel with a powerful engine. I have run in with another team, a world superhero team known as the Justice League, and I know they have a mind reader, a female magician, and a bunch of other characters who should have been easily able to track you down if they were made aware of the situation and certain things come to mind. A. Your team in fact does not know you well enough to tell the difference between you and your sister, and the charade she has is still going on. D. The League does know, but since they're so busy policing the world that something like this is too small for them to devote too much time and resources to, or the last one. C. No one simply just cares. All I can offer you is the way to find out which of these options are true. It sounds like a criminal yourself. Why should I help you? I'll admit I'm not clean, but I have the world's interest in mind, mostly my interest because the Earth will be destroyed if I don't do something, and I still think of that place as home. A being known as the One Event was sealed away in the Milky Way galaxy, and the only thing preventing him from being released are two seals. These seals are the progeny of both a god of evil and a god of good. I know where one of these two seals is. On Earth, this is a half-demon, the progeny of Trigon, who I was searching for before my capture. If this being is released, then well, more than just the Earth will be in danger. So you'll help me, right? While Starfire was a bit skeptical about the story, there was no point in her sitting here and wasting away. Alright, I'll do it, she said with a nod as the blonde smiled. Excellent, since it's your first day here, take the bed. You'll need a full night's rest so we can wake up early tomorrow and make sure you're in the proper emotional state for us to begin training for out escape. Starfire nodded and mumbled a thank you as she went over to grimy colored green mattress and tattered black sheets. The only thing she could do now is sleep and hope this mysterious blonde could in fact back up his words. Neither of the two realized their actions to come would result in a change influence the fate of the world greatly. You have to stay vigilant and be prepared. His words were deeply intoned in her mind. The cell that the two of them occupied was rather small, so their movements were constricted. You have to block everything and take complete and utter control of your emotions. Control everything: grief, anger, sadness, along with joy and happiness. You have to gain power from those negative emotions and turn them into fuel for strength. A few days had passed since Naruto had began teaching her how to tap into her darker emotions. Teaching her what she needed to survive and awaken what he described was her true potential. That strength came not from suppressing your dark half, but accepting it. The blonde noted that so much power and concentration was often placed on suppressing one's nature, they could never give it their all, but if they accepted the animal that was in, so to speak, they could unleash their full potential. Like always, the meal bell rung. Most days the prisoners were often only fed during morning and night intervals. The practice to cut down on food cost, some of them theorized. So like always, the prisoners were herding into the mess hall, where from time to time prisoners started having seizures thanks to the mass amount of neon green jumpsuits the prisoners were left and forced to wear. The two found themselves between a massive 9-foot alien called a Tetrament with 2 pair of tank-like sized armor and 4 eyes. His deep red skin going with his green jumpsuit unfortunately led to many quips by inmates who had been on Earth an extended period. On the other side was a mummy-like alien known as Thepkufan. The atmosphere being dimmed by the poor lighting and the smoke from the cigarette. "So what's a pretty little thing like you doing here?" The large 4-armed alien asked Starfire, much to her confusion as he looked up and down. "He's asking what's a pretty looking thing like you doing here," Naruto clarified for her. "You speak multiple languages?" she asked her partner in surprise, ignoring the muscle-bound alien. "You pick up a few things if you've been around the places I have." "Hey babe, why don't you and me?" Starfire reacted violently to the stranger touching her intimately, flinging him over her shoulder and sending him crashing into one of tables. As the steel table dent, several of the prisoners cheered at the promise of action happening soon. Starfire still had issues from her confinement by the Gordonians. Weeks of torment under the hands of those monsters, and when it seemed like their tastes were going to go into a more implicit nature, she knew she had to escape. Even if it never went that far, it didn't mean that she didn't still have nightmare of the sexual torture and humiliation that did occur. That no matter how she tried to put a smile on her face and try to forget, it changed her perception of things forever. One of the guards from up above flicked his cigarette over the catwalk as it landed into one of the prisoners' food. The other chatted him up about what was about to occur. "You little troc," he snarled as he pushed himself up. "Well, that's a bit rude," he said, then turned to the Tamarenian. "You would think if they bothered with these bracelets on our legs that translate whatever language we're speaking into something we can all understand, they would monitor them or something to make sure they're working or not being complete lazy assholes and not keep the turn off option from whoever they bought it from. Then again, I've seen bigger cases of stupidity." As Naruto was saying all this, she was wondering if the blonde was going to react, as the Tetraman was an arm's length of them. He casually sidestepped, grabbed one of his arms, drove his face into one of the food sinks or whatever the hell they were named, and twisted his hand and proceeded to drown him as the alien futilely tried to strike or grab the blonde with his lower arm, only for him to dodge it with ease. A diamond shard shot forward just right above the blonde's hand, causing him to let go of the Tetraman. "Shard," he said, looking up at the diamondoid known as a Petrosapian. "So that's Shard." Starfire was informed all about the diamondoid, the most feared of the guards. It was known that Shard had never been defeated in combat by any prisoner or left any of the ones who attempted to escape alive. Shard narrows his eyes as Naruto growled and looked away. "He's going to be our biggest obstacle. His species' near invulnerability negates most of my attacks. Let's eat," he said as they grabbed their trays. After mealtime was over, all the prisoners were herding back into their cell without a word. The last time someone tried to ignite a riot, they got a shard through the head courtesy of Shard. Like always, the prisoners were searched, and several of them seemed to pay special attention to Starfire. The only thing that kept Naruto from straight out throttling them, or what kept the guards in line, was the fact that Shard was there overseeing things. "You said Shard could be a problem. What about that snake beast from my first day in the prison?" Naruto looked up and faced the Emerald Eye Goddess. As he was about to answer her, he thought back to that for a moment. Serpine could be a bit of a problem, but he is nowhere near as problematic as well Shard. As he continued to gaze at her, he realized that she was quite tall, maybe taller than him. She then have an Amazonian sort of look to her. Naruto got on the bed and laid on his side. "I need a few more days to recover enough strength before we can make an escape." "You never did say how you managed to become so injured." "Let's just say being kicked in the ribs by Wonder Woman, pile drive by someone who I don't know, and struck in the back by several batarangs by Batman were just part of what I was hit with should paint you a pretty story. If I was only as strong as I was when I first entered this world, I would have been dead, but let's just say I've become the herald of a being that does not want the end to come, and it came with a few nifty upgrades," he said as he turned and nearly jumped up when Starfire joined him on the bed. "Hey baby, why don't I show you what a real hung beast can do?" "Hey there Tamarenian. Why don't you let me show you what someone with a real throb can do to satisfy you?" The prisoners continued to jeer as Starfire snuggled up against the blonde. "Starfire, are you? I'm sorry, you must think I'm weak, huh?" she asked, feeling ashamed that she was letting the words of these low-lives bother her. Making her feel so dirty that she wanted to lash out at everything. Trying to suppress the tears and thoughts. What if they failed? What if Naruto was killed during the escape? What would happen to her? What would happen when her only friend and link to sanity would be taken from her? No, he started to stroke her hair. And don't worry, we won't fail, and I won't let them hurt you. For a moment he hesitated before he placed a tentative kiss on her right cheek. So don't worry, Star will get out of here soon. He said as his head rested against hers. You don't mind if I call you Coriander, do you? Not that Starfire isn't a beautiful name, but Coriander is more majestic. On Earth, Star is such a common name, but Cori on the other hand is unique, it's you. And I like to get to know you. We both might find ourselves in a situation where even if we escape, we might have to continue and rely on each other, so you know. Cori, I like that. She said as a small smile formed on her face. Even if she had to suffer this hell for a few more days, as long as Naruto was with her, she could bear it. Naruto and Starfire were resting on the bed in their cell, with the former having a protective arm around the latter. Earlier that morning, two of the guards attempted an unscheduled cavity search, but the beat-up part was that they tried to take advantage of both inmates. Unfortunately for them, they didn't take into fact that Uzumaki Naruto was nobody's bitch. After the guards were disciplined, much happened without incident until it was meal time. One of the prisoners snapped and attempted to attack the warden, who arrived on the catwalk to inspect the prison conditions, only to order the prisoner to be put to death. After that, of course, the prisoners were ordered back to their cells and locked in before they could finish their meals. Another day had passed and the same old routine had passed. Since there was nothing to do but talk, the two cellmates shared bits and pieces of their life stories. And they kept close to each other because the cold conditions of the cell made them seek out heat by whatever means. Naruto woke up early that morning, glancing down at the girl who had a bed case of bed hair. She yawned and stretched as she sat up. Another day, she said solemnly as she stood up and took a sitting position as she began meditating. Breathing in and out, she focused all her thoughts into what she would possibly have to do in order to escape. The inward battle of trying to come to terms with the possibility of killing one of the guards despite their monstrous attitudes weighed heavily on her consciousness. She continued focusing on her thoughts, not even stirring when she felt Naruto's fingers run along the small of her back. No words were said as they continued their daily routine. At night, the two of them found themselves unable to sleep. You have the most beautiful eyes, you know that. The blonde said suddenly as he turned to face Starfire. Their faces were just inches apart. We should go out once we get out. You certainly aren't afraid to go after what you want. The redhead stated as she moved in a little closer. She couldn't deny the fact she found Naruto's confidence attractive. Damn straight, he said as Starfire reached up and began scratching one of his ears. Should have never told you about that. He grumbled as she giggled. You know you like it, she said teasingly as Naruto grinned. And I know you like this. He said as he pressed his lips against hers. The sensation of each other's lips was nice and comforting considering the past few days. Naruto wrapped his hand around her torso as Starfire placed a hand behind his head, deepening the kiss. She stroked the back of his head as her mouth parted, letting his tongue slip in as they continued their passionate kiss. That was nice, the Tamarin said in a husky tone after Starfire withdrew from it to catch her breath. I know, just a taste of something to look forward to once we get out. He said as she nodded and placed her head against his shoulder. Any day now they would be ready to bust out. After what seemed like weeks, it was finally time. The day was the day. Naruto's thoughts were filled with only one thing in mind, and that was finally getting free and getting back to Earth. His finger ran through Starfire's long and lustrous auburn hair, which with his help, she was able to return it to its former glory, of course. But all in all, it was kind of hard to focus with her laying on top of him after all. Her large proportions against his chest made it hard to focus, and he was sure she could feel his reaction, but didn't seem to care. He guessed Tamarinians weren't as strict about sexual interaction or had the taboos that humans had. So he decided to see if this was the case. Worst case scenario, he would have a stinging red cheek for the next few days, or maybe a week or two. His hand slid down her back and came a rest on her rather curvy and massive ass, and gave it a squeeze. Baby definitely had back. Starfire's rather spacious backside felt soft as his fingers practically melted against the softness. She merely made a deep guttural tone from her throat as she snuggled against him. The meal alarm went off as usual and the door opened. They both left the cell door and were ushered into the cafeteria with the rest of the prisoners. The faceless were patrolling up and down the walkway per usual. 3, 2, 1. Naruto whispered as Starfire nodded and fired a low-powered into one of the prisoners, causing him to bump into a larger prisoner. Of course, this caused the bigger one to take offense and punch the smaller one and knocking him into another prisoner. Naruto then hopped up and formed a Rasengan, hitting a Loban and sending him crashing into a Kineseleran. So of course a riot began, and this would be more than efficient enough to keep most of the faceless busy. Let's go. Naruto said as he leapt up to the catwalk. Futen. Rapusho. 1. With his hands clapped together, Naruto sent a compressed burst of gale force wind knocking the faceless out of the way. Prisoners are escaping. Get them. The faceless armed with laser weaponry began firing. The duo dodged every which way and avoided the fire. Starfire fired several starbolts at the generic stationary guards, which seemed to have no effect. Deciding to switch of strategies and taking the fight to them, she used her impressive strength and was able to rip through their armor with ease. Bright Naruto's voice echoed from ahead. Following close behind, she watched as he paused and seemed to be trying to sense something. "Alright, this way," he said as they went up a flight of stairs. Upon reaching the top, they were fired upon by more faceless, so they dove behind more pillars. Forming a wind release Rasengan, Naruto charged forward and shoved the sphere into the chest of a faceless, shredding the armor and sending bits of wire and metal flying everywhere. Using the upper part of the torso as a shield to block the laser fire, Naruto drew their attention as Starfire used powerful blows to take off their heads. More faceless charged up the halls and began charging with electrical staffs. Naruto formed a Kase no Yaiba in both hands and cleaved through the staffs. Throwing both hands up and forming Rasengans, he propelled himself back using the heel of his feet and shredded through the back of the two faceless. Arriving through the top floor, Naruto was able to blast off the steel shutters with an Adama Rasengan. From their vantage point to the roof, they could see the platform where the ships land to take in prisoners and took off. "I don't see any ships coming in," she said as Naruto looked into the distance. "Plan B," he said as a ruby and diamond merged key-shaped object materialized in his hands. There was several groves etched it. "I managed to imprint a seal on one of the keys for the imprint vessel. Suffice to say it was a bitch considering the ash-kicking I received for the perceived attack at the guard," he explained as he held out his other hand and a small pen-like device appeared in his other hand. "And this is freedom," he said, pressing it against the wrist-like devices on his hand, causing them to come off. He then did the same to Starfire, who rubbed her wrists to relieve them. With their goal in sight, they prepared to make way for the platform when the sound of something firing alerted them and caused them to jump out of the way. Emerald-shaded dagger-like objects stuck from the ground as the two turned to face their enemy. "This is as far as you go, prisoners," Shard threatened as his hands sharpened into blades. "I guess it was hoping too much to sneak out under your nose. Very well, Shard, one way or another. This is my last day on this rock," Naruto said as his pool of blue orbs sharpened and they morphed into crimson slits. Naruto charged forward and swiped at the Shard, who jumped back and began firing diamond shards at the blonde, who dodged them with ease. He charged forward, slashed Naruto's shirt leaving a rip as he continued going on the offensive. He kept pushing Naruto back until he was at the edge when he was blasted by several starbolts. He looked up when he was blasted in the several by a large charged up starbolts that only further annoyed him. "Stay out of this, Tamaranian," he ordered as he raised his hand as the ground began to rumble. Several large ovals erupted from the ground as they began firing lasers. Several beams nearly shredded Starfire, who was able to just avoid the beams, singing her outfit and even the edge of her hair. Starfire began firing at the crystals, hoping to either destroy the crystals or knock them out of the air, but to no use, the objects were absorbing her attacks. Putting his fingers in a cross, Naruto created several Kagabunchen and ordered them to help Starfire. "You are fighting a hopeless battle." Naruto didn't answer him, only forming a Rasengan and smashing it into the Petrosapian's face, cracking his face as he spun around and connected with his foot, causing Shard to tip over slightly, but otherwise hold his ground. Shard's answer was to create crystal platforms out of the earth and cause them to redirect some of the energy blasts that were menacing Starfire back at Naruto to keep him off his feet. "Then I'll even the odds," he said as a massive amount of chakra exploded from him, forming a silhouette. The aura soon died down as a faint green glow radiated from Naruto as his eyes changed into yellow toad-like squares. "You think your little light show intimidates me?" Shard asked as Naruto merely smirked and told him one last thing. "I don't have to fight to win. I just have to fight not to lose," he said as he poised his hands to the side and formed two Rasengans the size of basketballs. "Now perish." Charging forward, Naruto rammed the two swirling orbs into Shard, resulting in the area being engulfed in a blast of chakra. The roof was mostly disintegrated from the attack as debris was sent everywhere. When the attack died down, Shard levitating himself back in the air using a platform made of crystal. He looked around trying to see where his prey were when he heard one of the ships start up. Letting loose a snarl, he began chasing after the vessel. With Naruto and Starfire, they arrived to the platform where only a medium size was docked. Regardless of size or its functions, the two didn't care. It was a ship and it could get them the hell out of there. The hull of the ship was larger on the inside, easily about 30 to 40 feet long, with two large pilot seats, benches for occupants, and a small rectangular window for one to peer out of. "Can you fly this thing?" Starfire asked with concern. From the small snippets she learned of Naruto's past, his former time period wasn't the most technological advance. "Some of our fellow prisoners were space pirates among other occupants. They taught me things in exchange for a chakra high," he said as he pulled down one of the handles and checked the gazes. The fuel gauge was halfway between half and full, and everything else was checking out fine. Chakra high? Starfire asked as she sat in the other seat and strapped herself in. Let's just say that channeling chakra into a person's nervous system can have adverse effects depending on their biology. He said as the engine came on. Resting his hand on a sphere of some sort, he pressed a couple of buttons on the console with his left hand, which activated some missiles firing out of the bottom of the ship, causing a crack in the dome around the place. Suddenly the area was lit red as the alarm went off. After the ship rose up a few feet, Naruto pushed the accelerator as ship began pulling forward. Some impact against the back of the ship causing to drop slightly as Naruto activated one of the monitors. It looked like Shard was trying to damage the ship and prevent them from leaving. Not wanting to give the Petrosapien a chance to hit their fuel tank, Naruto pushed the accelerator all the way forward as the ship shot forward with amazing speed. The ship spun several times as Naruto had to swerve, crashing into a few small asteroids on the way. The duo were finally home free and they let loose a victory cheer. Their next stop was Earth. I am not pleased. The warden barked as his hand slammed against the desk. Shard and Serpient were both gathered in his office and being admonished. Shard, his prime officer and most effective guard, for being unable to stop the prisoners, and Serpient, his number 2, who ordered some of the guards to do his round while he was busy lazing about in his own quarters. If you two don't want me to cut off your heads and mount them on my wall, you will hunt down those 2 prisoners and make them disappear. Am I understood? Sir, surely we can. Before Shard could finish, the warden interrupted them. Those 2 are highly dangerous and resourceful criminals. Rumor has it that the boy is working with an interdimensional archdemon and he might go and bring more of those trucks to our doorstep, so eliminate them before they can cause any more damage or I will have you both executed. Am I clear? Yes, sir. Both of the guards replied as they exited his office and made their way to the platform, wait for a ship to dock so they could pursue their new targets. Starfire let out a sigh and looked back over the highlighted words in the newspaper. So far, she had found 2 possible places she and Naruto could stay. The one located closest to the place Naruto was trying to find a job was expensive. Even if she were to reveal Blackfire's treachery, it would not resolve her feelings. It would not mean she could forget everything that happened. She had grown closer to Naruto over the past few days, even elaborating a bit more on her past. And it was for the simple reason that he asked. That she did not feel so self-conscious around him because many of things she was experiencing for the first time, he seemed to experience it alongside her. Dropping the newspaper, she lounged her elbows on the table in front of her and annoyingly rested her face between her palms. It was so much easier when she lived in a giant tea, free of rent or other such worries. I found the perfect place, Naruto stated, walking over to her with a catalog under his arm. After standing up from the restaurant table. Are you sure we can afford it? She asked as a mischievous smile formed on Naruto's face and he brought out a large stack of hundreds on the table. Let's just say there were a few things on our escape ship that I was able to sell to alien enthusiasts. He explained as he left his partner to marvel at the cash. Half an hour later they arrived at the complex to meet the proprietor of the lot. The woman was leaning against the side of a bright red convertible, looking over what appeared to be important business documents. Her dark hair was cut short, coming down to her shoulders. She wore jade earrings along with a dark blouse and white skirt. She looked up from the paperwork to watch Naruto and Starfire walk up to her. Hi, my name is Marilyn and I am the landlord. She nodded politely as her cold black eyes gave one last quick glance at the documents before handing one of the sheets to Naruto. She led the way through the doors, her black heels quickly silenced by the carpet inside. She took to the set of stairs on the left of the small but pristine lobby and soon they were on the 3rd floor. The trio stopped at a door at the end of the hallway. 66, she stated calmly and slid the keycard through the security device. When 2 green lights appeared, she easily opened the door and waved the couple ahead before following behind. The apartment was a small cozy size perfect for 2. Down the hallway to the left was a rather nicely sized bathroom, complete with tub and duo sinks, and opposite of the kitchen on the wall was a wall closet. Next to the bathroom was a small bedroom with a large window with a rather spacious closet. Farther down to the right was the master bedroom with a queen-size bed on the wall farthest from the door, with a TV and compact entertainment system across from the bed. A desk with a most comfortable-looking swivel chair was on the wall against the other bathroom, which lacked a tub like the main bathroom. Back in the other direction there was a sliding door with a little patio behind a rather large window with blinds from keeping voyeurs from peeping in. And what of the other tenants? Naruto asked after the woman, Miss Kelly Anderson, paused to ask if they had any questions. We like our privacy. He said as Kelly nodded in understanding. I assure you to not worry about that. I have rules stated clearly in each room of this facility and most of the tenants tend to keep to themselves. What do you think? Naruto turned to Starfire who looked around with a steady glance. Bit smaller than I'm used to, but once we move in, I'm sure it'll feel just like home. She answered as the couple shared a loving quick peck. Young love. The woman thought with a small smile. Alright, if that's all I have the paperwork for you to sign right here. Well, then, I guess just give us the paperwork to sign and we'll get moved in immediately. It had only taken an hour to get settled in. Since neither of them had any spare clothing or furniture to bring, it didn't take them long to start planning their next movement. That being purchasing some new clothes and picking out furniture. Starfire floated as she entered the mall with walking Naruto next to her. Starfire took hold of his hand and dragged him over towards a particular store. He saw people staring at them. Then again it made sense, she was a somewhat famous superhero, and even if he wasn't even sure if his fight with the Justice League was broadcasted. He could see it now, all the tabloids and junk magazines with headlines of Starfire dating a criminal or trashy magazine, throwing some spin of him being a bad boy to sell to dumb teenage girls who wanted their own cute but trouble guy, unaware that they were nothing like cartoon or shows marketed towards their targeted audience, portrayed them as. Either way, the highly attractive and vivacious alien happily dragged him along to a clothing store. Starfire happily gasped upon seeing something that caught her eye. "Look, Naruto," she exclaimed. "Don't those dresses look divine?" And before waiting for an answer, she dragged him in. 15 minutes later, he found himself waiting on a bench with two other men who look oddly at ease. Both were reading a sports magazine and casually glancing at their watch. The man closer to Naruto, with the start of a beard with short black hair and square-framed glasses, looked up. "New girlfriend?" he asked as Naruto dumbly blinked and nodded, surprised at the man's question. "You have the look of a newbie. You'll learn soon enough. I'm engaged, been with her for 20 months. He stated as the other man merely chucked. The other man was much older, in his 40s, and unlike the t-shirt and jeans he was wearing black slacks and a plaid shirt. Married, 15 years. "You boys haven't seen anything yet," he said as Starfire emerged from the changing room. "How do I appear, Naruto?" Starfire asked as the blonde sharply inhaled. She was wearing a red dress with a single strap on the red side. It was vibrant and really brought out the color in her eyes. Orange and red was a great combination, and it didn't help that her physique made the outfit all the more stunning. "Stunning. I'm tempted to link arms with you so I can spend the day showing everyone that the most beautiful girl in the world chose me." God, that was cheesy. Starfire beamed, blushing. He smiled back, feeling rather embarrassed and completely unaware of the simultaneous thoughts of "you lucky bastard" from the men who were sitting with him. Naruto began wondering whether he should start a fire, considering the weather had been growing colder the past few days. Looking up at the calendar, he noticed it was the 8th of November, and Thanksgiving was a few weeks away, along with Christmas being over a month and a half away. Either way, he supposes he shouldn't worry about it too much. He and Cory, after all, were about to go out on a date. He was dressed in a white t-shirt with a black zipped-up sweater, jeans and black tennis. "You ready yet, Cory?" he asked as he knocked on the bathroom door. "One moment more please," Starfire's voice sounded muffled through the door. Naruto just stood outside, whistling for a bit, rocking back and forth on his feet. The door suddenly swished open as Naruto's mouth dropped a little. There stood Starfire. She was wearing a jean skirt that was cut about 2 inches above her knees, along with a purple blouse with a white beaded kami underneath. Her hair was pulled back up into a high ponytail. Her outfit was casual, but it had its effect. Then again, considering Naruto's favorite color being orange, his alien lover could probably pull off a loose t-shirt and sweats. "You look beautiful, Cory," he said, linking his arm in his as they made way for the door. "You look very handsome as well," she replied, looking over his outfit. Linking up arm in arm, the couple were out the door. They arrived at a sushi shop that was about 20 minutes from their place by car. Never had Naruto seen any woman pack it away like she had. Then again, having 4 stomachs could do that for a person. She really seemed to like the eel and raw fish. He just wishes he could have stood that couple from pointing out that wasabi complemented mustard, to which she overused along with a tangy condiment on her sushi. Surprised to say, they were both surprised to learn Starfire could shoot star bolts out of her mouth. Not to mention the $400 in water that Naruto had to pay that she ended up consuming. "So, what do you want to see?" Naruto asked as he skimmed over the movie selection. "Friends with Benefits, Crazy, Stupid, Love," he trailed off, knowing his girlfriend's fondness for romantic movies as they spent the previous day snuggled up on the couch and watching nothing but romantic comedies. "Actually, I think the prequel of The Thing would be interesting," she suggested as Naruto had to stop himself from falling back on shock. "Is it something I said?" she asked as Naruto straightened his shirt and collected himself. "You want to see a horror movie?" He slowly spoke the words as he tried to process it. He watched his emotion spread through Starfire's face, uncertainty with a bit of hesitation. Biting her bottom lip, Starfire began to slowly stroke her left hand with her right hand as a soft sigh escaped her lips. I am not a fan of such things, but I am curious to see if the alien creature portrayed is anything I recognize. Besides, I heard you talk with Thomas, the clerk of the supermarket, and know you wish to see it. She explained as a look of understanding formed on Naruto's face. He wasn't much of a horror buff himself. He liked action or shinobi flicks, but someone suggested he tried John Carpenter's The Thing, and he really liked it. It was so well written and smart, not unlike many generic sex and booze flicks with someone invincible killer that some 1-pound virgin could do in when football players or law enforcement often couldn't. And considering how much he enjoyed the original, he couldn't help but be a bit curious about the prequel. Are you sure? I mean, I can wait. I'm not really big on horror movies either, he stated as Starfire shook her head. I am sure, besides, it would be most interesting getting scared once in a while, no? She asked with a smile. If you say so, Naruto answered with a smile of his own as he got the tickets. Throughout the movie, Naruto and Starfire seemed enthralled with the screen, though they had watched it with Starfire's head on Naruto's shoulder and Naruto's arm around Starfire. Occasionally, both would jump or let out a scream. Not that Naruto let out a scream at that face-merging scene, it was the guy ahead of him. That movie was unnerving, Starfire answered with a shiver. But I do not understand. When was that one man affected? And why did the thing kept revealing itself and attacking so soon? And if it was a then, how did the woman informing people to not prevent another massacre? Starfire listed off as the two of them sat on a bench at the park under the glow of the moonlight. To be honest, I do not know. Going to have to look up movie reviews by angry fans or something. Anyway, word is eventually going to get out with all your sightings today and yesterday. If you want, maybe we can leave, and Starfire cut him off, knowing where the conversation was going. I love this planet, said Starfire as the two stared out into the night. I think of all the wonderful things I have learned and seen here. All the people I have met. She said as the glow of the crescent moon illuminated the path they were walking. And even if I did not meet you here, I am enjoying my stay with you. You gave me strength when I wanted to give up, and I thank you for that. If you are by my side, I'm ready to face anything that's thrown at me. She said as she inched closer to Naruto. She floated up slightly, and before Naruto realized it, she had straddled him. Hori, I did not have much to live for besides this mission I had to burden, but now it is different. I have something worth living for, you, and I will not let anyone or anything take you from me. Reaching out, Naruto cupped Starfire's cheek, the thumb lightly stroking it, while his other hand reached for her waist. Starfire put her hands around the back of Naruto's neck and laced her fingers together. Slowly, ever so slowly, the two moved forward, and their lips meet. Both enjoying what little time of peace they had before the world and superhero and villain communities to meddle in their affairs. It was an early cool night, and Starfire was walking down a dimly lit street, enjoying the breezy night air and the sights and sounds of Jump City at night. As she traveled, she found herself getting reacquainted with the city. During the stroll, she picked up a newspaper and began catching up on what she had missed. Apparently she had left the Titans for a temporary leave a few days ago over some disagreement, and the incident was being kept hush for the most part, but apparently someone let the beans spill. So, they finally noticed. She bitterly thought as the harsh winds of the cold night air caused the paper to flap wildly in her hands. But it was too late, she had chosen to move on, and that meant closing that chapter of her life. Cory knew she would never be able to fully move on unless she confronted the other Titans, but she couldn't find the right time to do so. Letting fear and the prospect of cutting ties affect her decision-making process. It went against her innate nature, and despite any rational normally sticking to their guns, Cory found it difficult to make a choke. So, the rumors are true. You have returned, little sister. There, floating 20 feet into the sky was her older sister Blackfire, illuminated by a flickering streetlight. Apparently with the discovery of the charade she had foregone the disguise, her eyes glowing with a malevolent violet glow. Why do you insist on calling me sister when we both know you hate me? Indra demanded, only for Blackfire to counter with a question of her own. Why answer when you won't live to regret? And without another word, Blackfire lunged at her sister, her eyes glowing bright purple. Her hand lit up with energy, which she discharged at Indra in the form of a lavender starbolt. Indra barely had enough time to dodge, allowing the starbolt to zip past her and slam into the street behind her back, throwing up a huge explosion. Starfire flew at Blackfire and fired a starbolt of her own. This one was faster and more powerful than Blackfire's previous starbolt, and it found its mark, grazing Blackfire on her left shoulder. Blackfire let out a yelp of pain, clutching her shoulder where the starbolt hit her. I'll make you pay for that. She shouted, lifting up into the air. Her eyes seemed to glow even more intense than they had been just a few seconds ago, and her hands seemed to be on fire as they were illuminated with the glow of stored-up starbolt energy. She threw a flurry of starbolts at Indra, who screamed as she realized there would be no way to avoid being blasted. Starfire screamed, impacted the ground before recovering and going on the defensive. Using her power she created a sphere to stave off Blackfire's starbolts, resulting in several patches of ground around her exploding. When you can't outpower your enemy, outsmart them. Naruto's words echoed in Starfire's mind as she reached into her jacket for some smoke pellets. While the cold itself didn't bother Starfire, having a jacket on provided her with one advantage. Pockets. Give up, Coriander, I'm far stronger than you. Why prolong your Blackfire's boast was cut off as Coriander threw some smoke pellets at her feet, resulting in smoke blinding her vision and filling the park. What matter of trickery of this? Fight me head on, coward. So much for being Tamarin's proud and noble princess. She roared before inhaling some smoke and began coughing and sputtering as she tried to use her starbolt energy to light up the smoky battlefield. Seeing the outline and coloring of Coriander's jacket, Commander gathered as much power as she could and fired a starbolt that would do nothing less than put her sister near death, let alone heavily cripple with all her might. It's over, sister. I've won. No, Commander, Coriander voice echoed behind her. Now it's over. Tamarinian didn't even have a chance to move as she blast of power sent her hurtling into a metal park bench, bending it and causing the alien to cough up blood. How? Commander sputtered and clutched her side. How are you doing this? You were never this strong before. I stopped holding back. Coriander simply replied. I always thought, maybe, just maybe we could make amends. I never hated you, you were big, my big sister, and I looked up to you. Family is supposed to look after each other, but you don't understand that, do you? You forced all your hatred onto me from the moment I was born, despite the fact I always stood up for you. I didn't want to see what was in front of me, but now I have no choice but to accept that maybe we'll never amend our relationship. Coriander began walking away. Don't walk away from me. Don't you walk away from me, you little troc. Commander screamed as she shot forward. Coriander spun, but she was simply too late. Commander's starbolts caught the side of her face, causing her to stumble back with a cry of pain. She threw her arms up, defending against the vicious assaults of her crazy sisters, whose punches threatened to break her arms. Her sister didn't let up, switching tactics and projecting an energy explosion, causing Coriander to fly back into a tree, causing a dent. Looking up with her still functional eye, she realized that she wouldn't be able to move out of the way at time. The bright intensity in Commander's starbolt triggered something in Coriander's mind. Commander truly wanted her dead. She came to accept her sister's hatred, but she didn't think Commander would go so far. In the blink of the eye, she was suddenly mobile, her mind a bit of a haze as she miraculously avoided Commander's attack by pure instinct. Hori. Naruto's voice echoed throughout the park. The park wasn't too far away from their residence, so it made sense he picked up on the noise. Commander regained some semblance of sanity as a cruel smile crossed her face. Consider yourself lucky, sister. I leave you alive for now, only for you to grieve the loss of one of your human pets. Commander, don't you dare. Fear gripped Cori's heart. It all happened so quickly she wasn't able to do anything. The starbolt-covered fist had connected with the blonde who appeared in the clearing. But speeds that Tamarinians were capable of achieving, Naruto was only just able to react and move just quick enough in his transformed state to avoid the attack striking a fatal blow, something neither Tamarinian was capable of knowing at that time. The attack sent him reeling backwards into the pond. Until next time. Commander remarked as she made a retreat. She knew that with this level of disturbance the Titans would show up soon enough and she wasn't in condition to deal with them, considering the damage Coriander did to her and the effect the smoke was having on her system. Naruto. Starfire hobbled over to the blonde. Thanks, Al. She exclaimed, rubbing her face against his as he weakly chuckled. Hey, he whispered. I fought against the Justice League, remember? Think I'd go down that easily? He remarked as his wound began to slowly heal. The Tamarinian speed blitz had left him stunned for a few moments, but not too long after he managed to recover and make his way to the battleground. Never been hit with a starbolt of that intensity, so of course it's going to take a bit of time to heal. He said as his breathing became shallower. And the crazy bitch sneak attacked me. He said as he reached up and cupped her cheek. Next time though, things are going to go differently. Hori didn't say anything, but silently agreed. Commander, you have gone too far this time. Next time we meet we battle not as sisters, but warriors, and unlike you, I will be walking away from that battle. Naruto and Starfire sat atop one of the tallest buildings in Ocean View City, gazing out at the sprawling metropolis below. With her emotional scars still fresh, the duo decided to relocate to another area until Starfire felt comfortable confronting her old teammates. As such, they began searching for a new area to relocate to until they settled on Ocean View City, a bustling metropolis located in the heart of California with a population of over 3 million people. From what they were able to learn, it was known for its beautiful beaches, picturesque coastline, and warm Mediterranean climate. The city is currently being governed by Mayor Jennifer Rodriguez, a charismatic and well-liked leader who has held the position for 3 terms. She seemed committed to making Ocean View City a safe and prosperous place for all its citizens. When it came to the police department, it was being led by Chief Marcus Evans, a stern but fair-minded veteran officer who has served on the force for over 30 years. A no-nonsense approach to law enforcement and is highly respected by his fellow officers. Using his Kage Bunshin, Naruto got a detailed breakdown of the area. The city was divided into several distinct neighborhoods, each with its own character and culture. The downtown area is a bustling hub of commerce and entertainment, with numerous high-rise office buildings, shopping centers, and restaurants. The affluent community of Pacific Heights features beautiful mansions and upscale boutiques, while the bohemian enclave of Ocean Beach is known for its artsy vibe and eclectic mix of cafes and galleries. Other notable landmarks in Ocean View City included the iconic Ocean View Pier, which stretches out into the Pacific Ocean and offers stunning views of the coastline, and the Ocean View Aquarium, a popular tourist destination that showcased a variety of marine life. Overall, Ocean View City was a vibrant and dynamic metropolis that offers something for everyone, from beachcombers to business people. They had been patrolling the city for hours, searching for any sign of danger, but so far everything had been quiet. As they walked, Naruto couldn't help but feel his connection to Starfire deepen. They were both outsiders in this world, trying to find their place. "I cannot help but wonder about this place," Starfire said, breaking the silence between them. "It is so different from my own world." Naruto nodded in agreement. "Yeah, it's definitely a lot different from the Hidden Leaf Village. It is not just the buildings and the technology," Starfire continued. "It is the people. They seem so detached. So focused on their own lives and problems. I never noticed it before because I didn't put that much thought into it." Naruto frowned. "Yeah, things here are so different here. People are always in a rush, always looking out for themselves. I find it difficult to understand," Starfire said. "In my world, we are always looking out for each other. It is how we survive." Naruto smiled. "Yeah, I guess what gives us perspective to see this is our nature as heroes." Starfire nodded, a determined look in her eyes. "You are right. We will do what we can to help these people, even if they do not always seem to appreciate it." As they continued walking, they stumbled upon a street performer juggling flaming torches. Naruto was fascinated and Starfire was amused. They watched the performer for a while before he approached them, asking for a donation. Naruto was about to give him some money when a group of thugs approached, demanding the performer give them his earnings. The performer backed away, afraid for his safety. Naruto stepped forward, ready to defend the performer. Starfire stood by his side, ready to fight as well. The thugs laughed at them, thinking they were no match for them. Clearly they were uninformed. Even if the Titans weren't worldwide heroes or had a name on the level of the Justice League, they still had renown among both coasts of the states and major cities of the country, particular of the superhero and supervillain community. In a flash and without even having to use their powers, Naruto and Starfire used their natural speed and strength to disarm the thugs and send them flying back. The thugs were taken aback by their unexpected strength and retreated, leaving the performer unharmed. Naruto and Starfire helped the performer gather his earnings and watched him continue his performance. As they walked away, Naruto turned to Starfire and said, "Our teamwork is steadily improving, huh?" Starfire smiled at him. "Yes, I had to admit working exclusively with you makes it easier to work in sync." Naruto nodded, feeling a sense of pride in their teamwork. "Yeah, it is. But small-time thugs and villains are one thing's Cory. No matter what, things are going to escalate. As confident as I am, I'd feel better with a team, resources, and a larger network. I will protect this world, my new home, no matter what." Starfire looked at him, her eyes shining with determination. "And when that day comes, we will be ready. Together, we can overcome any obstacle." Naruto grinned, feeling energized by her words. "Yeah, we will. And the team we put together will be the best damn team this world has ever seen." Soon the day faded and night was upon them. Finishing their patrol, they went to one of the parks in the city. Starfire sat down beside Naruto and gazed at the stars. They were sitting on a grassy hill, enjoying the cool breeze of the night. "Naruto, I wish to tell you about my home, Tamarin," Starfire said, her voice soft and wistful. She had spoken little here and there during their time together, but never really went into deep detail about her home planet. Naruto turned to look at her, his expression one of curiosity. "Sure, Starfire. I'd love to hear about it." Starfire closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Tamarin is a beautiful planet, Naruto. The skies are always clear and the sun shines bright. We have 6 moons, each with their own unique beauty." Naruto listened intently as Starfire spoke. Her voice was filled with love and longing as she described her home. "On Tamarin, my people, the Tamaranians, live in harmony with nature. We have vast forests and crystal clear lakes. Our cities are built around these natural wonders and we take great care to protect them." Starfire took a deep breath before she continued to speak. In Tamarin, we worship a deity known as Zal. She is the goddess of the sun and the moon, and she is the source of all life on our planet. Zal is also the protector of our people, and we believe that she watches over us and guides us in our everyday lives. Naruto listened with rapt attention as Starfire spoke, his eyes never leaving her face. He was fascinated by the way she described her people's beliefs, and he felt a deep respect for the Tamaranians and their devotion to Zal. We Tamaranians are a warrior race, Starfire continued. We are trained from a young age to fight and defend our people against any threat. It is in our nature to be strong and fierce, but we are also kind and compassionate to those who deserve it. Naruto nodded in understanding. I know what you mean, he said. In Konoha, we also have a strong sense of duty and honor. We are taught to protect our village and those we care about, no matter the cost. And we too are trained to be strong and fierce, but we also value friendship and loyalty. Starfire smiled at Naruto's words. It is good to know that there are others like us out there, she said. But sometimes, I feel like our warrior nature is misunderstood by those who do not know us. They see us as aggressive and violent, but we only use our strength to protect our people and defend what we believe in. Naruto placed a comforting hand on Starfire's shoulder. I understand, he said. Sometimes, people fear what they do not understand. But as long as we know who we are and what we stand for, that is all that matters. Starfire nodded, grateful for Naruto's understanding. Thank you for listening, Naruto, she said. It means a lot to me. Anytime, Naruto replied with a warm smile. I'm always here to listen and learn from my precious people. Listening to how you describe your people, I can't help but think it's a lot like the shinobi way. In Konoha, we have the Hokage, who leads us and ensures the village's safety. We believe in protecting our village and our people, no matter what. Starfire nodded, her eyes shining. That is very noble, Naruto. Your village sounds like a place of great strength and unity. Naruto grinned. It is, Starfire. If there was one thing that Konoha always held strong, then it was our belief in unity, paving the way for the next generation as well as camaraderie and courage. All of our beliefs assembled together to what was known as the Will of Fire. They fell silent for a few moments, staring up at the stars. Thank you for opening up and accepting me more into your world, Cory. I can understand trust being a precious commodity to you right now, but I promise you I won't betray the fate you put in me. Starfire smiled, reaching out to take Naruto's hand. And thank you for sharing your world with me, Naruto. They sat there for a while longer, holding hands and watching the stars. Naruto couldn't help but feel a sense of peace and contentment wash over him, as if everything in the world was right, if only for a moment. A few more weeks had passed as the duo had spent time looking for a suitable place to turn into their new home or base. They had scoured the city's suburbs, searched the downtown district, and even ventured into the surrounding wilderness. Finally, after weeks of searching, they stumbled upon a large, abandoned warehouse near the outskirts of the city. As they walked towards the entrance, Naruto noticed the boarded-up windows and the rusted metal door. This looks like a perfect spot. What do you think, Cory? He asked. Starfire flew up to get a better look at the warehouse's exterior. It is indeed an impressive structure, Naruto. However, it is not very inviting from the outside. Maybe we could add a garden or some flowers to make it more pleasant. Naruto nodded in agreement. Great idea, let's check it out. They entered the building and immediately saw the potential it held. The warehouse was spacious and had an open floor plan. The walls were sturdy and the ceiling was high, allowing plenty of natural light to come in through the large skylights. Starfire flew around the room, observing the space with a keen eye. It is perfect, Naruto, she said with a smile. Naruto looked around and agreed. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But it needs some work. They decided to make a list of everything they needed to turn the warehouse into their home or base. They needed to install a kitchen, a bathroom and bedrooms, and they would have to fix the floors and walls, among other things. The warehouse was large enough to accommodate their needs, with plenty of open space for training and a separate area for living quarters. The building was in disrepair, but Naruto and Starfire saw the potential in it. They decided to take on the task of renovating the warehouse, turning it into a functional and comfortable home base for their new team. They spent the next few weeks tirelessly working on the warehouse, using their unique skills to transform the space into a comfortable and functional living space. Starfire focused on the design and decor of the living quarters, bringing in comfortable furniture and decorating with colorful tapestries and paintings from her home planet of Tamarin. Naruto focused on the training area, setting up targets and constructing equipment for them to use. As they worked, they discussed their plans for the future. Naruto spoke of his dreams of looking to recruit useful heroes to fill the niches they lacked for a well-rounded team. Starfire shared her own vision of building a team of warriors who could defend the innocent and uphold justice. They both agreed that their shared goal was to protect the people of Ocean View City and create a safe place for them to live. No, in fact they would take it even a step further. They would do what was necessary to maintain harmony and peace, even if meant making the hard choices. It would be far from simple to simply just throw together a team that could do that. To legalize a vigilante team and grant them the same authority as the police. The legal and political complications of such an arrangement would be significant, and it would be difficult to justify giving a group of untrained civilians the same powers and responsibilities as trained law enforcement officers. The concerns alone about accountability and oversight were a whole matter in itself. In other words, they would need to seek out a higher authority in the United States, along with the approval and support of the local police department and the mayor. Either way, that was something they could focus on more once they get the initial parts of their plan done. As the renovations progressed, Naruto and Starfire grew closer, their bond deepening with each passing day. They laughed and joked together, sharing stories from their pasts and learning about each other's cultures. Naruto regaled Starfire with tales of his adventures as a ninja in Konoha, while Starfire spoke of the Tamarin god Zal and the warrior nature of her people. Finally, after weeks of hard work, the warehouse was transformed into a beautiful and functional home base. The living quarters were cozy and comfortable, while the training area was equipped with everything they needed to hone their skills. Naruto and Starfire stood side by side, surveying their work with pride. They had created something truly special, a place where they could work together to make a difference in the world. Finally, after weeks of hard work, they had their new home, and it was perfect. Naruto and Starfire stood in the middle of the room, looking around at their new home with satisfaction. "This is it, Starfire. Our new home," Naruto said, putting his arm around her shoulder. Starfire smiled at him. "Yes, Naruto. Our home, and it is wonderful." Mori. It was time to start expanding their team, so using the knowledge that both had accumulated, they narrowed it down to a handful of choices. They decided to reach out to Wally West, also known as Kid Flash. They knew he had a reputation for being quick on his feet and having a strong sense of justice, which were qualities they admired. They made their way to Central City, where they hoped to find Wally. It didn't take long for them to spot him, zipping past them at breakneck speed. Naruto and Starfire exchanged a look before quickly coming up with a plan to catch his attention. Starfire lifted Naruto into the air, and he used his chakra to create a large glowing symbol in the sky. It caught Wally's attention, and he raced over to investigate. "Hey Kid Flash." Naruto called out as Wally skidded to a halt in front of them. "We're putting together a team to take down some bad guys, and we think you'd be a great addition." Wally looked skeptical. "What makes you think I'm interested?" "We've heard about your heroics and your sense of justice," Starfire interjected. "We're looking for people who want to make a real difference, and we believe you're one of them." Wally seemed to consider their offer for a moment before nodding. "Okay, I'm in. What do I need to do?" At the very least he knew of Starfire because of Robin. A part of him always wondered how things would have played out if he teamed up with him and Speedy all those years ago. Naruto and Starfire grinned, happy to have Wally on board. "We'll give you more details soon, but for now, just be ready for anything," Naruto said. "We'll need your speed and your quick thinking to help us take down some powerful enemies." Wally nodded again, a determined look in his eye. "I'm ready for anything," he said. Naruto and Starfire had heard about a skilled warrior named Katana, who had a reputation for being a fierce fighter and was known for her proficiency with a sword. They decided to seek her out and see if she would be interested in joining their team. After asking around, they discovered the Katana could often be found training in a secluded area outside of Gotham. They made their way to the area and found her practicing her sword skills. Approaching her, Naruto spoke up. "Excuse me, are you Katana? We've heard a lot about you, and we were wondering if we could talk to you for a moment." Katana lowered her sword and turned to face them. "Yes, I am Katana. What do you want?" Starfire stepped forward. "We are forming a team to protect the city we took residence in and those who call it home. We believe that with your skills, you would make a valuable addition to our team." Katana raised an eyebrow. "Protecting Ocean View City, you say? And who else is on this team?" Naruto listed off the names of the other members they had recruited so far. Katana listened intently, nodding her head every so often. "I see," she said finally. "Well, I am honored that you would consider me for your team. But I must ask, what makes you think I would want to join you?" Naruto spoke up again. "We have a common goal, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And with your skills, we would be able to do that even more effectively. Support in tracking down General Carnes and Takeo." The masked warrior's body language said it all. The coldness of her rage emanating was almost enough to form visible mist. "As someone who seeks to bring justice to this world, you will be an invaluable ally. Will you join us?" Katana seemed to consider this for a moment before nodding her head. "I see your point. Very well, I will join your team." Naruto and Starfire exchanged a look of relief. "Thank you, Katana," Starfire said, smiling. "We are honored to have you on our team." Katana returned the smile. "The honor is mine. When do we start? So far their team was growing into quite the powerhouse, but they were still lacking a crucial element. They lacked someone with knowledge and skill in the mystic arts. That was how. Naruto and Starfire walked into a crowded nightclub, the bass from the music vibrating through the soles of their shoes. They had received a tip that Zatanna was performing at this venue tonight. The two of them made their way through the dancing crowd and eventually spotted the raven-haired magician on stage. Zatanna wore her signature top hat and tails, a wand tucked behind her ear as she wove spells into her performance. Naruto and Starfire waited patiently until the show ended and the crowd dispersed, leaving Zatanna to pack up her equipment. They approached her, and Starfire smiled warmly. "Excuse me, Zatanna, we're big fans," she said, holding out her hand. "I'm Starfire, and this is Naruto. We're putting together a team, and we were wondering if you'd be interested in joining us." Zatanna looked the two of them up and down before nodding. "I'm always looking for a new adventure," she said with a smirk. The trio made their way to a nearby cafe to discuss the details. Naruto explained their mission, and Zatanna was intrigued. She had been feeling stagnant in her current career and was excited at the prospect of using her magic to help others in a more meaningful way. "I'm in," Zatanna said, a twinkle in her eye. "Great." Starfire exclaimed, clasping her hands together. "We're thrilled to have you on board." As they walked out of the cafe, Naruto turned to Zatanna. "We're still in the process of recruiting, but we'll let you know as soon as we do. In the meantime, we'd love to see what you can do with your magic." Zatanna grinned mischievously. "Well, it just so happens that I have a few tricks up my sleeve," she said, wiggling her fingers. She led them to a nearby park and with a few flicks of her wand, summoned a miniature army of rabbits. The three of them laughed as the bunnies hopped around them, nuzzling their feet. "This is going to be fun," Naruto said, a wide smile on his face. Zatanna nodded. "I have a feeling we're going to make quite the team." Naruto and Starfire approached a young woman who was practicing her archery skills in a secluded forest. She was tall with long auburn hair, dressed in a green and black outfit, and had a quiver of arrows strapped to her back. The woman turned to face them, pulling an arrow from her quiver and pointing it in their direction. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice sharp and serious. Naruto stepped forward, holding his hands up in a non-threatening manner. "My name is Naruto, and this is Starfire. We're looking for skilled individuals to join our team, and we believe you may be a perfect fit." The woman lowered her bow, studying them both with a critical eye. "What makes you think I'm interested in being part of a team?" she asked. "We've heard of your abilities and your willingness to stand up for what's right," Starfire replied. "We're fighting a similar battle, and we think your skills would be invaluable." The woman arched an eyebrow. "And what battle is that?" "We're fighting against a powerful organization that seeks to do harm to innocent people," Naruto explained. "We need people with your skills and determination to help us stop them." The woman considered their words for a moment before nodding. "I'm Artemis," she said. "And if what you say is true, then I'm in." Naruto and Starfire exchanged a smile of relief, pleased to have recruited another strong ally to their team. They spent the rest of the day getting to know Artemis, sharing stories and honing their skills together. It was clear that they had made the right choice in inviting her to join their cause. With most of their recruits having been secured, it was time to fill the one important vacancy that had been putting off. They needed someone with a powerful technological edge, someone who could handle anything that came their way. After a bit of research, they came across Jamie Reyes, also known as the Blue Beetle. They decided to go to El Paso, Texas, where Jamie was based, to meet him in person and hopefully convince him to join their team. Upon arriving in El Paso, Naruto and Starfire made their way to Jamie's neighborhood. They were impressed by how colorful and vibrant the area was, with people milling about and music blaring from every direction. Eventually, they found themselves standing in front of Jamie's house. It was a modest one-story building with a small front yard, but Naruto and Starfire could tell that it was well maintained and cared for. Naruto knocked on the door, and after a few moments, it opened to reveal a tall, muscular man in his late 20s. He had a friendly smile on his face as he greeted them. "Hey there, can I help you?" he asked. "Hello, we're here to speak with Jamie Reyes," Naruto said. The man's smile faded slightly, and he looked at Naruto and Starfire with suspicion. "What do you want with him?" "We're here to offer him a place on our team," Starfire explained. The man looked at them for a moment longer before nodding. "Okay, come on in," he said, stepping aside to let them enter. They walked into the living room, where Jamie was sitting on a couch, playing a video game. He looked up as they entered, and his eyes widened in surprise. "Hey, guys. What brings you to El Paso?" he asked. It had only been a few weeks since they encountered the teen who was trying to discover the origin of his scarab. "We're here to offer you a spot on our team," Naruto said. Jamie's eyes widened even further, and he put down his controller. "Really? That's awesome. What kind of team are we talking about here?" We're a team of heroes, fighting against a great threat, Starfire explained. We're looking for people with unique skills and abilities to join us. Jamie raised an eyebrow. And what kind of skills are you looking for? We need someone with technological expertise, someone who can handle anything that comes our way, Naruto said. Jamie nodded thoughtfully. I see. Well, I do have some experience in that area, he said. That's great to hear, Starfire said with a smile. So, what do you say? Will you join us? Jamie leaned back on the couch, considering their offer. I'm definitely interested, he said. But I have a lot of responsibilities here in El Paso. My family, my friends, I can't just abandon them. We understand, Naruto said. But we believe that what we're doing is important. And we can promise that we'll do everything in our power to make sure your loved ones are safe. Jamie thought about this for a moment, weighing his options. Finally, he nodded. Okay, I'm in, he said. Naruto and Starfire grinned at each other in satisfaction. They had just recruited another valuable member to their team. Welcome aboard, Starfire said warmly. Jamie smiled back. Thanks. I can't wait to get started. Naruto and Starfire had been searching for new members to join their team, and they had heard about a Martian hero named Miss Martian, who had been active in the area. They decided to pay her a visit and see if she was interested in joining their team. They arrived at the address they had been given, which was a small apartment in a building in the city. They knocked on the door, and a few moments later it opened to reveal a young woman with green skin and red hair. She looked surprised to see them, but also curious. Hi, we're looking for Miss Martian, Naruto said. The woman smiled. That's me. Can I help you with something? Naruto and Starfire introduced themselves and explained that they were putting together a team of heroes to help protect their city. They asked if Miss Martian would be interested in joining them. Miss Martian listened to their pitch, nodding thoughtfully. I'm definitely interested, she said. But before I make any decisions, I'd like to know more about your team and what you're planning to do. Naruto and Starfire explained their vision for the team, emphasizing that they wanted to protect the city from threats both supernatural and mundane. They also told her about their backgrounds and what they could bring to the team. Miss Martian seemed impressed. It sounds like you've got a solid plan, she then wondered what made them choose to come to her specifically. But what can I bring to the team? Naruto and Starfire told her about their research on her powers and abilities and how they thought she could be a valuable asset to their team. They also emphasized that they were looking for people with a strong sense of justice and a desire to help others. Miss Martian thought for a moment, then smiled. I think I could be a good fit for your team, she said. I've been looking for a way to use my powers to help people, and this seems like a great opportunity. Naruto and Starfire exchanged a look of satisfaction. That's great to hear, Starfire said. We're really excited to have you on board. Miss Martian smiled. I'm excited too. So, what's the first step? Naruto and Starfire explained that they were in the process of setting up a base of operations for the team and that they would need everyone's help to make it functional. They invited Miss Martian to come with them and see the progress they had made so far. Miss Martian agreed, and they all left the apartment together. As they walked, Naruto and Starfire talked about their plans for the base and how they were hoping to make it a comfortable and functional place for everyone to live and work. Miss Martian listened with interest, asking questions and offering suggestions. By the time they arrived at the base, she seemed fully on board with the project and eager to get to work. Naruto and Starfire exchanged another satisfied look. It seemed like their team was really coming together. The sky above Lily Haven was ablaze with the brilliant hues of a setting sun. The bustling city below buzzed with life, unaware of the extraordinary assembly taking place high above the skyscrapers. 7 figures stood on a building, their distinctive costumes and powerful auras marking them as heroes from different worlds and dimensions. Naruto, the shinobi from the Hidden Leaf Village, stood alongside Starfire, her fiery hair and alien elegance, making her an unmistakable presence. Kid Flash, the speedster with a lightning bolt insignia, tapped his foot impatiently, while Zatanna, her top hat and fishnet stockings adding an air of mystery, conjured a series of magical symbols in the air. Katana, her katana blade shimmering with an otherworldly aura, remained stoic, while Jamie Reyes, the armored blue beetle, adjusted his mechanical scarab, a powerful weapon of alien technology. Finally, Miss Martian, her green skin and psychic abilities hidden beneath a human guise, scanned the city below for any signs of trouble. So, this is Lily Haven, huh? Pretty impressive. Naruto remarked. Starfire then added, indeed, it is quite fascinating. Come on, guys. We're here for a reason. Zatanna, any word on what we're up against? Kid Flash questioned. Zatanna, Aper Bruoi Senki na emit kafim. Stoud na sila. As Zatanna spoke the incantation backward, a holographic image appeared before the team, displaying a looming threat. It was a towering figure clad in dark armor, radiating a menacing aura. That doesn't look good. Katana remarked. Jamie discovered through the scarab sensors. I recognize that tech. It's Apocalyption. We're dealing with someone from Darkseid's forces. This Martian scoped out what it was attacking, and it seems like he's attacking the city's power grid. We need to stop him before he plunges the city into chaos. No time to waste. Let's go. With that, Kid Flash darted off. With a collective nod, the diverse team of heroes shot through the sky like meteors, leaving streaks of light in their wake. They descended upon the city, where the Apocalyption enforcer was wreaking havoc, sending shockwaves through the streets. Sirens wail in the distance, a futile call to arms against an invader impervious to earthly weapons. Buildings crumble like sandcastles before the might of the enforcer, each step a shockwave that shatters glass and buckles steel. Fires ignite spontaneously, fed by ruptured gas lines and scattered debris, casting an eerie glow that dances across the night sky. Amidst the carnage, the citizens flee in a frenzied stampede, their screams lost in the cacophony of destruction. The Lilyhaven City Police Department stands valiantly, though hopelessly outmatched, their gunfire a mere annoyance to the behemoth that regards them with eyes glowing with malevolent intent. A mother clutches her child, hiding behind the remnants of a fallen wall, while a young couple helps an elderly man to his feet, limping toward the relative safety of an underground metro station. They are the faces of Lilyhaven, resilient, unyielding, but now facing an existential threat that could end their lives and their city. And in the distance, just beyond the reach of chaos, the first light of dawn breaks, a silent witness to the terror that has befallen Lilyhaven. The city holds its breath, waiting for salvation, for heroes to emerge in its darkest hour. I've got this. With a burst of speed, Naruto dashed forward, closing the distance between himself and the armored foe. He unleashed a series of blindingly fast punches and kicks, but the Apocalyption enforcer effortlessly blocked and countered each strike. Allow me. Starfire soared into the sky, her eyes glowing with alien energy. She unleashed a powerful starbolt, striking the enforcer with a blast of searing heat. It staggered him momentarily, but he remained undeterred. He's tough, but I'm faster. Kid Flash streaked around the enforcer, creating a tornado of wind that trapped him within its swirling currents. The enforcer roared in frustration, struggling to break free. Blue, lit. Wakuoi Izuri Ratat. Zatanna's magical incantation reversed the enforcer's vision, causing him to see everything upside down. Confused and disoriented, he stumbled, giving Katana the opening she needed. The blade knows no fear. She lunged forward with her katana, slicing through the enforcer's armor and revealing a vulnerable core. A surge of dark energy erupted from the enforcer, but Miss Martian was ready. You're not alone in this darkness. Miss Martian used her psychic powers to create a mental barrier around the enforcer's consciousness, suppressing his violent urges and rendering him powerless. Now, Blue Beetle's turn. Jamie's scarab fired a powerful energy blast that encased the enforcer in a stasis field. Immobilized and defeated, the threat was neutralized. With their combined efforts, the team had successfully thwarted the Apocalyption enforcer's rampage. The people cheered as the heroes stood victorious. Not bad for our first mission together, huh? Naruto proudly stated to the team. Repa, etnipit najab, ekal nyad na werg. Zatanna's incantation reversed time, restoring the city's power grid to its former state. The lights of Metropolis flickered back to life, and the chaos that had gripped the city receded. As they delved deeper into the mystery of the dimensional rift that had opened in the city, Zatanna's insights led them to a startling discovery. The rifts were not a random phenomenon, but the machinations of a cosmic entity with malevolent intentions. These rifts they're deliberately opened. We're dealing with a being of immense cosmic power. Zatanna remarked as she examined the rift. Blue Beetle, adjusting his alien technology, chimed in with his own observations, his gear detecting anomalies that pointed to an impending threat. The situation is worsening. Miss Martian noted as she looked on with worry. We must locate the source of these rifts and seal them before it's too late. Naruto, taking the lead, addressed the group with a sense of urgency. Alright everyone. I'm afraid when it comes to my magic I'm out of my depth. So any suggestions on what we should do? Zatanna nodded in agreement, her brows furrowed in concern. The Void Weaver is a powerful being capable of manipulating reality itself. Of the top existential warpers he doesn't reach the level of the fifth-dimensional imps, but he is up there on the scales. If these rifts continue to spread, they could unleash chaos on an unimaginable scale. Blue Beetle chimed in, his robotic voice tinged with worry. I've been monitoring the rifts closely, and they seem to be growing in size and frequency. We need to act fast before they become uncontrollable. Miss Martian, her telepathic abilities probing the depths of the group's thoughts, spoke up. I've been scanning the surrounding area for any signs of the Void Weaver's presence. So far, I haven't detected anything, but that doesn't mean one of their heralds haven't slipped through. Starfire, her fiery gaze reflecting her determination, crossed her arms and nodded. We must remain vigilant and be proactive if one of their heralds slip through. With what I remember of my teachings, the Void Weaver has come in contention with not only the fifth dimension, but the likes of Trigon and the Lantern Corps. This is not a threat we can contend with alone. Naruto nodded solemnly, his expression resolute. Agreed. We'll split into teams and patrol the city, keeping an eye out for any envoys, while Zatanna close the rifts. Once we're done here we'll have to contact the League. Dr. Fate, the Lanterns and any other heavy hitters need to be informed. They had came here because of the initial chaos that was being caused, and he was sure it was no coincidence that the Void Weaver seemed to be making its move at the same time that Darkseid seemed to be making another bid for Earth. Thankfully it seemed like some of the mystics were already on top of things and were contacting them. In a secluded chamber adorned with ancient relics and glowing runes, Madame Xanadu shared her insights, her voice echoing softly yet with unmistakable gravity. Beware, brave warriors, for you face the Void Weaver, a being of ancient malevolence, imprisoned eons ago for its insatiable hunger for power and dominion. Dr. Fate, his helmet reflecting the dim light of the chamber, added his own grave warning, his voice resonant and commanding. The fabric of all realms and dimensions teeters on the brink of catastrophe. The Void Weaver's return signifies a peril beyond comprehension. Fueled by this knowledge, the team embarked on their mission, their resolve hardened. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.